Well, hello, everyone, and a happy. Let's do that way. I was told the angle was off last time. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. Is everybody okay? How's that angle? I was told before that people didn't like the angle. So I want this to be pleasant for everybody. So we want to make sure that might be a little too low, but hi, everybody. Blessings to everyone. Thank you, everybody who decided to join me on this beautiful. I'm trying to get the light and everything perfect. We have to choreograph everything with Mila, because if Mila doesn't like it, then we have to do it over again. Mila always lets me know when she doesn't like something, because if she doesn't like something, she will destroy it. For example, she doesn't like my glasses. One of the reasons I was running late this morning to meet you all was because she stole them. She often steals them. She tries to wake me up. She's my alarm clock, whether it's at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. If I don't want to sleep, she punishes me. If I don't want to get up, she punishes me. So she punished me by crawling onto my night table and knocking things over. And then once she knocks them over, she scatters them about the room. Then she picks them up, she destroys them, she carries them off to one of her nests. I didn't want to wake up this morning. I was rewarded with spending 10 minutes looking for the glasses. So that's what's going on. And that's why I don't have a lot of makeup on. So Mark, hello. Mark Rhodes is in. He just was like, oh, I just heard my name. Yeah, we're simpatico, Mark. I just saw your name come up. Let's do a brief hello to everybody, and then we're going to just go straight into the blitzes. It's already 11:05, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have a very brief remote view, and yes, I think you're all going to want to hear it, and I think that it's going to generate some interesting discussions. First off, let's take just a minute to say hi to people. I want to give a shout out to Judy Ann Jamerson. She was the first to join us, and so of course we want to give special gratitude. The Copper Broom, Sharon Costello, Greeter TK is in the house. Hello, and Pierre Walker. We always like seeing Pierre Walker coming to visit. Maxine Laducer is in the house. Hello. Steph, hello. Greeter, we already said. Budka. Stephen Haggerty. Ooh, you're making pumpkin bread. Can you send me? I love pumpkin bread. With walnuts? Sharon Costello, hello. Margin Moore. Jay Catlety. Lindy Miller. All right, we've got a lot of we got a lot to go through, but we'll continue saying hello to everybody as we go along. So far, how is everybody doing? Let's go ahead and check in. Then we will give our remote, and then we're going to go straight into the collectives and the blitzes. For those people just joining us, my name is Whimsy, and I hang out with my friends and have brunch on Sunday virtually, and we talk politics, and then we do what are called tarot card blitzes. A tarot card blitz or a reading blitz. Sheila does I think she does card blitzes, and she also does the pendulum, but basically it's 5 minutes. It's when the readers do 5 minutes. So we have the moderator, Noelle here. Awesome possum. Everybody's doing well. Great, Becky. Awesome. Hi, Salome. Shop Girl's having New York bagels. Any chance you got some roasted garlic on top, or is it just everything? Is it a balagan? It's total chaos where you have everything there. That's also really good. You ready for some good news? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with the blitz, and start with the remote view I did the last couple of days. It was actually a really simple remote view. When I meditated the last couple of days about the feeling from spirit or how we're all trying to connect with our higher selves, The word, believe it, this is a word that RBG would probably talk a lot about, but the word was respect. So the spiritual lesson for America is that part of the natural order is respect, and that kind of surprised me in my meditation last night, because it's just not something I think of as part of the natural order. But when I meditated on it, I realized that animals, for example, dogs, if they're playing in a park, they approach each other and then they decide whether or not they're going to show each other mutual respect. And then once they've established, I respect you, you respect me, now we can play. Now we're part of a group. So in terms of the societal problem that occurs with a personality disorder, is that it is a wound that affects respect. And that's because respect is, I acknowledge your worth as a human being. I acknowledge that your life has value, and I will treat you accordingly, even if you yourself don't know that your life has value. And it goes back to this idea of royalty, or this idea of the aristocracy from a spiritual perspective. We talked in the past about how the spiritualist movement in England, just from an anthropological and cultural perspective, was heavily influenced by aristocrats during the time of the Victorian era and beyond. And that was because there were a lot of social changes that were taking place in Europe. The Communist Manifesto had been written, people were fighting for civil rights, etc., because of exploitation of workers, etc., in Britain. So a spiritual dynamic started to occur, or a political and social phenomenon started to happen in the spiritualist community right around the time that the British were emboldened in the pseudoscience of eugenics. And the pseudoscience of eugenics believed that some people were inherently superior to others because of their lineage. And it was this idea that the aristocrats were superior and they needed to rule because the poor people were genetically inferior. What happens at the time of the spiritualist movement going into, how it impacts the spiritualist movement in England is that it then began to have bleed into this idea of spiritual inequality, that you're on a lower spiritual level than I am. And so it became a snobbery. We became snobs in the spiritualist community. Well, what did you do to have that incarnation? So what they're talking about here in this meditation is how we can bring respect back into the conversation. And so the last couple of days that I've been meditating, it's always going back to this idea of how can I contribute to the good? Am I being as respectful to you, the person I'm interacting with, the viewer, or whoever I'm interacting with? That's what it is to be a gentleman. That's what it is to be a lady. And that's what RBG was talking about. Be about your business. And when interacting with other people, acknowledge their sacred core and address them accordingly, because they may not consciously even know that it exists. If you're talking about somebody, for example, who grows up in a depressed area of South Pennsylvania, which was an area I was scanning last night, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. What I felt when I went into that remote was they don't feel respected. They are forgotten, they're disrespected. Even the jobs that barely kept them alive are gone. And so the anger, as irrational as it is, maybe people feel that it's irrational in the way that it's being expressed, but the solution, the cure, is respect, even if you don't feel respected by the other individual. So it's kind of like the antidote. So Spirit is saying it's the antidote, in a sense, to what's happening around the world. It made me think of people that have mastered this in their own lives. Some of them religious people, some of them not religious people. And it's one of the reasons why I love Schitt's Creek, is because, and why it won 6 Emmys. I think it's because it sets that tone of everyone's life is sacred. Everyone deserves respect. And I think that's one of the reasons why everybody loves Eugene Levy, and he's always called a gentleman, is because he carries that idea, that aristocratic idea of respect and care and concern in the characters he presents. So it goes back to this idea of respect. Give respect to yourself first. Acknowledge that in yourself. And then when you acknowledge and see it in yourself, you will begin to see it in others, even if they don't see it in themselves, and you will lift them up. And by lifting them up, they will see themselves as you see them. So it's, again, this idea that respect is the natural order. I respect you. I acknowledge you. I acknowledge your intelligence. It also goes back to this interesting idea where they did an experiment where they took children, poor children of color, that were, I don't know, in some area that was depressed, and they lied to the teachers, and they took that group and they said to the teacher, these are kids from neighborhood A, but they've been selected as part of a gifted program because they have IQs of 200 or whatnot. And so they're a little unusual, but just work with these kids. They're all geniuses, and they're all going to go off to Harvard or whatnot. So unbeknownst to the teachers, they didn't know that they were part of an experiment. And so when they went into the classroom, they showed the utmost respect to these geniuses. What happened, do you think, to those children from the hood? What do you think happened? They all wound up with their grade point averages all went through the roof, because the teachers thought that they were talking to geniuses and began to address them as geniuses. And so the students began, I guess I am a genius because the teacher tells me I am. So again, it goes back to that root idea in the meditation of respect. All right, now we're going to the second part of, this is the fun part now. We're moving on to the second. That was when I first entered. You know, when I go through the rabbit hole, as a heart-centered remote viewer, some people say, no, Wims, you just call it spirit walker. I have a few Native American people that grew up in the shamanic tradition, and they say, you're just a spirit walker. We all do that in our tribe. I'm just a spirit walker. I say, well, that's a lot of fun. But yeah, so at night when we do our meditations and we do our spirit walking, right, we go off and we follow energy and we do what we do. So in the last couple of nights, I've been focusing on the undecided voter. I didn't invent the word, but doesn't that make more sense to just call it a spirit walker? Because that's actually what we're doing, right? Hi, Jeffrey. I did vote blue, and I hope you did too. I voted early, straight, blue, all the way down. So in my nightly meditations, I was trying to, excuse me, I was trying to focus on areas. So I went into areas like southern Pennsylvania. I hope that the Democrats that know their ground game understand that this is really what the people want in the South. They want to be told that they're going to have jobs, and they want to have the respect. So that's what I saw in that area. But all along the Midwest, the other thing that I saw when I scanned the Midwest, Iowa, etc., I don't think the GOP is getting it. Excuse me. I don't think that they understand how upset farmers are, particularly in Iowa. And it goes back to this feeling of disrespect. People don't like to be lied to. People don't like to be conned. People don't like to be played. People don't like to be spoken to as if they're stupid. So that energy, again, because you can't maintain a society, it's not part of the natural order if you don't respect people. So I think he lost the Midwest, and I think it's very likely that Trump could lose Iowa. See, they're saying Iowa's red. I don't know. I don't see Iowa red when I go in. I don't see Georgia red. Isn't that weird? They all look blue. And Texas, the thing about Texas, somebody had said, no, Northwest Texas is incredibly red. And that's true. I actually did some research last night. It's Amarillo, Texas, which is red. 69% voted for Trump. It would be curious if we could take a look at those numbers on election night in that Potter County. Check Potter County, because I have a feeling we're going to see a drop quite a bit in Amarillo and in that Northwest area. So I looked at the area of Northwest Texas, and the reason why I think it drops is because Amarillo is close to New Mexico, Colorado, and Oklahoma. And so what's happening is it has a lot of trade. But when I went further into that area, the main reason why it's flipping has to do with the Hispanic vote. So what happened is that in certain areas where it's cheap to live and you have a lot of migration and trade, it's like a trade route. So what happened with Amarillo and in that area, and why the Republicans are not going to be able to continue to hold on to it, is because there's massive trade, because of how close it is to the other states, which also means the exchange of ideas and economic movement. So even if it's red, it's not going to be 68% in this election, maybe 54. But that drop of 14 points in Amarillo should be a wake-up call for the GOP. Because I saw we'll say 10 to 12 point drop because of migration patterns and because people are tired of this president. All right, the last part of the remote, and then we'll go straight into the readings, had to do with scanning Florida. And what I found, Florida was really funny because the Republicans who had changed their vote, specifically I was looking at the energy of Republicans who had changed their vote. Now globally, all across the United States, when you scan that energy, why did you change your vote? Why did you change your vote? Why did you change your vote? What are you going to say when Leslie Stahl interviews you on 60 Minutes in 2-3 weeks? What are you going to say as part of the panel? And it's failure to lead in the time of crisis. It's the handling of COVID that cost him the election. But when you go into Florida, it's even more specific. Florida is a very nonchalant, no nonsense type of energy where the feeling is we, the American people, are the employer. The president of the United States was the employee. We agreed to give you a chance. We hired you for 4 years. You failed to do your job effectively, and so we have decided to go with another candidate. Boom, boom, boom. It's kind of like the human resources response to an election. I was very surprised by that. That really what tips Florida is this very nonchalant, this is business. We hired you. You were a candidate. We're now firing you and going with another candidate. We, the employer. So expect to see a very many of the Republicans, the sane, rational, no nonsense group of the Republicans that decided to give him a chance. That's what that attitude that you're going to be hearing is flipping Florida. Interesting, huh? Yeah, he failed to read the employee manual, Connie. It was so interesting talking to that energy. I think she was a Cuban American. the term, she was like, we have decided to go with another candidate. You were hired. And it was just like the imagery she was showing me. I was thinking, do you work in human resources? It was like something that you would hear from human resources. Thank you for your application. We have reviewed your performance over the last 4 years, and we've decided to take another candidate. It's a practical aspect to the culture that I found very amusing to get into. No nonsense. All right. Is everybody ready for their reading? They're living in the 1960s? Well, that energy was very no nonsense. Well, I mean, I think that what that energy was saying is that she was the average Republican business who looked at it as a business, no emotion, and he's a disaster, so people fired him. Florida and Pennsylvania, Jeffrey, that was what, because they're swing states, I wanted to go in and feel what they were feeling, what they had to say to me. And what they had to say was that they felt ignored and disrespected, which is, we hear that and it goes in one ear and out the other. But when you're a remote viewer, you really get to experience what it is to be in those shoes. And yeah, rightly so, they're angry because they, but unfortunately people now feel that they've been played. All right. Any comments about the remote views over the last couple of days before we go into the blitzes? All right. You ready? Is everybody ready for your reading? For the people watching the channel, let's pull this back a little bit, give everybody some space there. There we go. I'll get it right eventually. All right, let's do a simple prayer. We'll go in and we're going to give everybody a reading. This reading is applicable to you at the time that you hear it. It's the collective reading. It's based on the idea that we are all connected. And so we are going to try and see if there's a collective message for all of us. All right. I want to call on white light protection for myself and my viewers as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and good angels to be with us. Give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, for the planet, for the people we love, and even to help those we have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. Let's go in. All right. We're doing blitzes. All your blitzes will be addressed, my child. We gotta get through this. Where we are at together collectively as a group is a feeling of a celebration or a wedding or an offer. The karma we are going through is an Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups, the hand of spirit is coming out of a cloud and it's offering a cup, and there's a W there, which I always think of as wedding, like the wedding chalice. And the cup overfloweth and people are celebrating. So this is the karma we are currently going through. Overall, I would say energetically, this community is really headed in a positive place. You can see the base of the matter is a celebration. But specifically, it's a celebration that often denotes women. If you're reading for somebody, if you have a client who is LGBTQ, if this can often be a marriage of women, you can see the hand fasting ceremony is being performed. The woman in red is the high priestess, as she, which is, by the way, the color of royalty, as she officiates this celebration. So I always use it as a wedding, a celebration as well. But the ladies are dancing and they're celebrating their union, and we can see the wedding cup. Mazel tov! May you have a long and successful marriage. So the women are dancing, the women are celebrating, and it can also indicate that perhaps the feminine energy or the feminine ideals are starting to emerge in the world. We've said that in the natural order, the mother comes first. We've said that when we meditate, we find that in any given society, the mother comes first, because if she doesn't get adequate food and nourishment, the tribe will not survive to the next generation. But I want to point out that mothering can be done by anyone. It's anyone who chooses to take on the responsibility to feed, nourish, and care for the next generation. It's just traditionally been a female role. So the one that mothers, must come first, because she or he is the person that sustains life and the next generation. That also would apply to the teachers, the people who are part of the mothering. They must come first, or they must be a priority, because they are the hope of the future. And if we don't care for them, we are lost. So we see a celebration of a returning back to this strong feminine energy, which there's a feeling that it was suppressed. And again, it goes back to this feeling of disrespect, that it was minimized, trivialized, discarded, debased, right? The narcissistic wound. And the consequences of that were that we were all suffering. The wound started because people felt disrespected, and then Trump got elected, and then we felt disrespected. So from a karmic perspective, it's interesting. How can we learn to be respectful ladies and gentlemen in our own right and walk the good path and put that out into the world? Where we are at right now, the Chariot, we see movement happening. So nobody is sitting passively by waiting anymore. I think that this is a really positive thing that I've noticed in this community, is that we all kind of got the memo and we are hunkering down. We know times are going to be lean. It's going to be hard until spring of 2021, because in spring of 2021, the new job opportunities open up, new contracts, etc. You can see Gaia here moving in the direction of Gaia, the treasure trove. Also, for those of us who are artists and thinkers, people that are producing music, art, etc., you may find that this is an incredibly creative time for you. The writers, the ability to give birth to new ideas, and Chariot would indicate that this is an incredibly creative, artistic time for the group. What is above you? Again, standing at the entrance. Four sticks have been created, but the walls aren't up yet. But this is the fourth house, what is above us. So there's a feeling that we're entering into something that's potentially positive. And you can see again the bride and groom. Now in Hebrew, we call that stand the chuppah. It's supposed to symbolize the house that the bride and groom are creating. And the fruits were supposed to symbolize fertility. It's kind of, that it should be a fruitful union. What sits below us? The karma that we are creating. It's really interesting, because I really saw this as the missing piece. If you're lonely, Be a lady, learn respect. Respect for yourself, respect for others. If you want to have a love life, respect. If you want to have a social life, respect. A man would this is for the ladies and the gentlemen. A man, just like a woman, is going to find the person attractive that genuinely respects them. I'm not talking about a doormat. A doormat doesn't respect themselves or anybody else and doesn't know how to stick up for themselves. This is talking about being somebody that can stand on their own 2 feet and genuinely respects the other person. A relationship of mutual affection and respect has to be the foundation of any relationship. The karma card comes to us, and you can see here the relationships go from a rocky situation into a smoother relationship. So it's saying here that for those of us who are having conflicts in our relationships, particularly in the dynamic or relationships with family members, starting with respect and boundaries for oneself, and then how that plays out with other people. Also, career-wise, people may be starting new projects. There's a nice Ace of Wands moving into the 6th house. And then a 6 of Wands victory within 6 months. I really feel spring is the time we're going to be seeing a lot of these new projects open up. And that's because they're already set. And it looks like Congress has been holding off funding, possibly because of Mitch MCConnell or possibly because they had contracts with other businesses. It's all about who gets the contract, whether or not America needs it or not. But we see that's shifting between 4 and 6 months from now. It's a really rapid shift into the green economy. And so many companies want funding for this that it was interesting that Donald Trump didn't understand that. Somebody is leaving in the 8th house. Our hope and our fear, the new union. And then the final outcome for us, justice. Goes back to be about your business. Be a good person, be an ethical person, pay your taxes, right? Thank you, by the way, the taxes got paid. People had asked about that. Justice card would also indicate some kind of balancing taking place for the group. It has to do with the Constitution, what is around us, the new beginning, the hope and the fear, the contract, and then the heartbreak over a celebration. I think the nation is going to be really divided in the coming weeks. I'll go straight into checking of the election, but it looks like we're celebrating, but the opposition is not. But what concerns me about the opposition being upset with those cards, it goes back to a feeling of being that they will be ignored again, from their perspective. And that's the wound in that area that if we're going to come together and unite as a country, we have to be able to start from that point of respect, I think. I think Biden's going to win. And I think that I think that it's going to be interesting to see how we address just how divided the nation is. Okay. I mean, it's amazing when you look at this stuff and you think about this meditation, and some of you have shared, your own struggles, whether it's dealing with discrimination or difficult childhood or something like that. It's interesting how if people are not honored, if their lives are not honored, it upends everything. And it's the beginning of healing, and it's the beginning of a sociocultural collapse in those areas. And we can't just keep doing this back and forth. It has to be something that starts within us, because we carry that with that respect within us. And then always check yourself. Like, I always have to check myself. Like, am I really seeing the divinity in that other person? Or am I just, that person's such a fool? Are they such a fool? Like, maybe I'm not listening. Maybe I really need to, just catching how I can improve my own character in terms of how I interact with other people. Something really to think about. All right, let's check the election. Thank you, Noel, for moderating. All right, we're looking at the presidency, and then we'll do the Blitz. Fun times! Woohoo! I hope that gave everybody some comfort. So it goes back to the Amy Coney Barrett. Thank you, Condi. That's really kind of you. It goes back to Barrett's nomination, where Lindsey Graham had talked about respect, and our behavior at the Kavanaugh hearing, which RBG did not approve of. And she didn't approve of it because she felt that it denoted great disrespect and that nothing good could come of that. That there are ways we could have opposed Kavanaugh, but done it in a way that was respectful. An example would be Cory Booker, who opposes Barrett's nomination, but he is always gives her the utmost respect. So that impresses the voters, because that's what they want to see. They want to see respect to return back to DC. Doesn't mean we agree with you, but our arguments are sane, rational, measured. We think before we speak. We weigh and consider what everyone has to say. And then we make decisions in a measured way. That's the kind of leadership that people want to see in the country. That's what you feel when you go into this. Okay. Let's look at the election. Where the election stands right now, we're overspending. You can see the Ace of Pentacles moving into the base matter with the Two of Swords as the karma card. So I don't think this energy reminds me not just of the Barack Obama campaign, it also reminds me of the Bill Clinton campaign, in the sense that it's not just about outspending, it's just focus. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Two of Swords is the base. It's just all steam ahead, focus. We're definitely outspending the Republicans. I've heard it's 2-1 in the swing states. That makes about sense. A new contract is coming in. It goes back to in the remote when we had felt the energy of the person out of Florida say, we've decided to go with a new candidate. This is a card of restructuring or a new structure or foundation, a new contract. Thank you, Christopher Guala. I appreciate that. What crosses it is justice. You can see justice prevails over a new contract or new deal with, and also Three of Pentacles can be a weeks card, because I read Pentacles as weeks. So within 3 weeks, some kind of justice occurs. Could also indicate the courts coming in. A King of Wands The archetype of Yehuda, the leader of the tribe, stands in the 4th house. And what sits below us is a feeling of a feeling that the nation is struggling to walk away from a battle. This is to walk away from a battle that we cannot win. What sits in the 5th house is the Hanged Man, and what we enter into in the 6th house, the nation, entering into a period of looking at what we have and what we have lost. And then the final outcome, we pulled double aces. We're sandwiched between the 1st and 12th house, the Ace of Cups. So it looks like Biden wins. A lot of it had to do with the outspending. Trump will not, he will not resign right away. He will want to retally. He will want to recount, but nothing will come of it. His team will try to explain to him that it's over. He will want to redo. He will go through a period of being in denial, similar to Mitt Romney, who just sat there stunned for 2 hours and couldn't go out and give his speech because he was too stunned. That's this energy. All right. Cory Booker is a vegan. He is single-handedly planning on shutting down the slaughterhouses and the factory farms. He and Sanjay Gupta have openly said that it is a threat to threat to public safety because they're both vegetarians. But well, they're vegetarians because of health reasons, but. Okay. Thank you, Wendy Semler. It's very kind of you. So people had asked if I could look at Melania just to see how her health is. So I think we'll do that next. How's Melania's health? She might be able to get back on the campaign trail in about 3-4 days. Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, she's saying. There's some kind of an event. Dang. You know, Biden's a Scorpio, but he always comes as the King of Wands. Have you noticed that? I bet you that he has a fire sign rising. She wants to go back to New York or Florida. You can see here the 3 of Wands, which is my east direction, and putting the past behind her, the Queen of Swords. She looks to the east. She wants to go. She likes Florida a lot. She feels comfortable there. This can be east. It can sometimes be southeast direction, but I also use this as my New York card. Just wants to go. She feels tied up, restricted. This can also be constriction in the chest. We've talked about that. If you're looking for medical clues, if you get something like this, it can be pneumonia or bronchitis, asthma, COPD, allergies from spores, if you happen to be a crazy mushroom head like me. No, I never got mushrooms, by the way. People are asking, did the mushrooms? No, I failed. It just became a soggy, moldy mess, and I keep throwing it into the compost. And I just keep trying and I don't know. I'm failing. But anyway, on to this subject. So constriction in the chest can be trouble breathing if you're talking about a health issue. If you're talking about a mental health issue, it's refusal to see a situation that they have placed themselves into, and they have tied themselves in this situation. Neela, did you want to join us? Did you want to sit over here? No? What she sits in, this is her third house. She's quietly contemplating her next move. What sits in her past, the Queen of Wands. She did establish some boundaries, and I think it was because she didn't feel well. Her near future, Two of Cups, a new proposal or new offer, which is crossing a situation she feels restricted by. Huh. That's the fourth house, and this is going into the sixth. She may have reservations about a current commitment or relationship she has. Maybe it's her marriage. She's looking, look at that, completely in the cloud. There's an aspect of her where she doesn't know what she's doing. Yeah, a contract. Hopes and fears, the Hangman. The final outcome, the new deal. Again, double aces. Double aces in the first and 12th house. The same thing. Because another man, the King of Wands, how she deals with it. She wants to leave and then her husband wants to stay, and something about, it's like everybody knows it's over but Donald Trump. There's something also coming in about what's going to happen with Barron's schooling. They might pull him out of where, oh, that would make sense because they're leaving in January. Something about the school changing in January. Meanwhile, she's already packing things up and organizing how to get everything back to Florida and talking to friends about future contracts. The other thing, when you float into her energy, she's already working at business contracts. She's also into branding. Just like her husband sells stuff, they want her, she's looking at branding jobs. So actually, when you go into the rabbit hole as Melania, I want to get back to work in what I'm comfortable with. Lancome contacted me. So it's controversial, but that's a hell of a good contract. If I get out of here, I'm going to go take the Lancome. It's that kind of happy to get back to the work I understand. Meetings with companies developing designs from the brand with my name on it. It's that kind of excited to leave and get back to that. Get back to the people I know. She will be very successful, Melania, because she's becoming a brand ambassador again. That's what it looked like. And the controversy of that is interesting. Some of Ivanka's clothing is nice, but the quality is terrible because it's all cheap fabric from China. So, but the designs are actually not bad. Okay, Ivanka is next. Thank you for everyone who has made donations to the channel. Just deeply appreciated. What is going on with Ivanka? I don't think they're going to stay in DC. You can see the 11th house going into a smoother situation, but there's a 4 of Swords there. It could indicate moving out of a rocky place to a positive place, but the 4 of Swords is there, a time of contemplation regarding her marriage. Her marriage is in serious trouble. You can see Ivanka's first house is her marriage crashing. Thank you, Hope. Morissette, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Sean Mueller. Is it Mueller or Mueller? I'll say Mueller. Thank you. Yeah, this is something that came up last time with Ivanka. There's a lot of stress in this marriage. This goes back. Remember when we had done a remote on Ivanka and I went through the rabbit hole and I wound up in their bedroom and she was sitting on the bed. It's like, should I be in this remote? And he was confronting her. Did you or she had lied to him about the signing of some documents, or she had just conveniently forgot to mention it. And then he had found it out through his lawyer or something. That happened a couple years ago. They found it. So then we also went through the remote, and what we found when we talked to Cohen, when we went into the energy of Michael Cohen said the feds had everything, including the signatures, and that it would be wise for Ivanka Trump to cooperate because they already have everything. So he contacted her, but he didn't just contact her. Somehow he must have contacted or spoken to her either through the deposition, or she had a deposition. It came out in the Mueller report, but it was sealed, what she had said. So this is starting to get kind of interesting. Just as somebody who is a remote viewer, it just looks kind of interesting that this is where it's headed. I just love what we do. It's so fun. Going east. That's the 4th house. They're fighting. Look at the 3rd house, what they're sitting in. Some judge. This is Mueller, by the way. They have to pay restitution. There's going to be some restitution. She's possibly trying to get pregnant, but you can see there's an inversion there. Something about infertility. She's 38. Yeah, it's not going to be the older you get, a little bit harder. Hopes and fears, the legacy, the children are trying to come through. I think she's trying to have another baby. Yeah, there's the baby. Can be a birth. There's a child coming. They have another baby coming, I think. The marriage, though, is in trouble. Child, but it's also communication by air, and it's also Archangel Michael to sever or end things. My interpretation of this is that if I were them, I would leave DC and try and save my marriage. It looks like another child is coming. And boy, their marriage is in a lot of trouble. Look at these cards. My gosh. I mean, dang. Why would you? Maybe that's what people do when their marriages are in trouble. They decide to have another child or something. I don't know. Yeah, I see them leaving DC. I see them having another child. I see them having marital problems. It's up to them if they're going to have to work at saving their marriage. I think the reason why it was not just that the legal trouble they're in, because her father basically conned her into signing things that could potentially ruin her life. She was basically conned by her own father. Oh, people do it all the time. Moving money around, getting paid fake money, then switching it to another bank account that the feds don't know about. He isn't just giving the money to his daughter to spend. No, she has to give some of that money back. So how does she give it back? Through these bank accounts that the feds were looking for, some of which are not even in the United States. Again, it goes back to the remotes we had done a couple of years ago when we follow this investigation just from an energy perspective. It's all about money. Oh, hi, Anna. Good to see you here. Thank you, Anna Macedo. So hopefully everybody got to see the charity report. It feels good, doesn't it? You know, though it's kind of frustrating that we keep planting trees, and it's like, wish there weren't so many fires. Okay, so let's look. Well, I don't know if I would agree, Salome, because I can tell you when you have a parent that's not well, the years and the therapy to unravel your brain. Does a child have the skills to protect themselves against a sociopath? Not necessarily. Unraveling that is going to take some time. Thank you, Mary. That's very sweet of you. All right, so people had asked about the down ballot races. If I could check to see about Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham again. So let's take a look. Oh, I think she's gonna get in, which surprises me because I don't see. Look, it's better for us to just be ladies and gentlemen, be utterly respectful, and using logic and reason and the utmost of respect, point out why we're right. And then when we impress everybody, that's why they're going to vote for us with our sanity. And then when Justice Thomas resigns, we'll fix it because we're going to have control of the Senate and the House. But I think there's 2 conservative judges that are probably going to be resigning in the next 2 or 3 years. We are going to stack the court. We're adding, we may add 1 more judge. Because I'm seeing a potential for a 10th judge. How is it? Wow, that's very controversial. Biden and Harris are going to do something to protect the courts. There's something about a 10th judge. I don't know how they're going to do that. Holy heck, because I got a 7-3 split. 7-3 split means that Kavanaugh goes left. Kavanaugh's becoming progressively left. That's the great irony. Gorsuch is more conservative. Thomas is more conservative. So it's Gorsuch, Thomas, and Barrett are the most conservative. And then under Roberts is Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh is moving more towards Roberts. Wow, that's really interesting. Isn't that interesting? What the heck happened to Kavanaugh? I guess it was RBG, which I guess she proved her point, right? Yes, RBG, that is actually a fact. The the justice mentor for Kavanaugh was RBG. He sat to her right. That was one of the first remotes when they had their first meeting. The table was kind of cool to sit at the table as RBG. Does everybody want to know how they sit? It's kind of cool. Thank you, SMV, for the. Thank you. I'm a fan of my fans. She sits at the head, and then not to the head. To the left in the center is Roberts, and then to her immediate right was Kavanaugh. And he gave her the utmost respect. She often needed help with things like certain things, and he did assist her. He really earned the right, from her perspective, to be a mentor to him. But she gave him the utmost respect because she knew the power in that, and it had an impact. It always has an impact because it's part of the natural order. And that was what I saw the last couple of days in the meditations. The power of giving people respect. Okay, so let's look at, what were we doing next? I'm sorry, I get lost in my... Yes, RBG gave the utmost respect, and she changed the history of America. That was her secret weapon. And it is a force. It is a powerful force that, when we learn to be ladies and carry ourselves with the utmost respect, when we learn to be gentlemen and carry ourselves with the utmost respect and give the utmost respect and truly listen to other people, it can change the trajectory of our lives and the trajectory of the lives of others. And that's something that we're all consciously becoming aware of as a nation, I think, because we lost it. Oh, is that right, Filler? I have no idea what I'm seeing, and I don't understand what I'm seeing, but I see a 10th judge. It's a man. They're going to bring in a 10th judge. I don't even know how the heck they're going to do that. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Harrison and Lindsey Graham. Let's take a look. Don't you love the sound of a train? Okay, so I'm in. The people that stopped voting for Lindsey Graham are not women, it's the men. That's what surprises me when I go in. Because one of the people that's confronting Lindsey Graham in this remote is a male voter who is angry at Lindsey Graham and confronting him. It looks like possibly a town hall or something like that, about all of the things that Lindsey Graham said he was going to do for the economy of South Carolina, and then he didn't do it, and he was caught lying, and they're holding his feet to the flame and saying, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? We're holding you accountable for your voting record, but also for the things you said you were going to do that you haven't done. So it's that kind of answer us. That hard attack. He lost a considerable number of male voters because of that. because of the economic impact. And the reason they went with Harrison was because he was a poor kid who busted his ass, and he acts like he gives a hoot. He acts like he cares about South Carolina. And we just don't feel that Lindsey Graham has he hasn't given a crap about us for a very long time. That's why we went with Harrison. That's the response. So look, if he makes it, he could make it, that he's 70-something% chance likely that Lindsey Graham is going to win in South Carolina. But when I sit in the shoes of the angry guy, no, you didn't. You didn't do this. You did this. Then you said you were going to do this, but you did that. I'm holding him accountable for his voting record. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting energy when you go into South Carolina politics. I have no idea what I'm talking about because I don't know South Carolina politics. He didn't listen. He talks respect, respect, respect. You talk respect, 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 Lindsay. You're not listening to us. You're not listening. That's the anger. So they decided to go with somebody else. They took a leap of faith. That basically is going to possibly cost. It's moving on. Oh, he's back. They say he goes for the vote, and then he goes back. He's trying to get people excited. They don't care about this dang Supreme Court thing the way he thinks. This voter. They care about the fact that they were lied to and disrespected, right? That's that respect thing. Respect cost the election. He's confused. He's in the clouds. He doesn't know what the hell happened. How did I lose South Carolina? Where do these people come from? The South Carolina voter is saying, we've been feeling this way for the longest time. You just haven't been listening. We told you we were having these problems for how many years? You just thought you were going to float right in? So he's completely confused. What the hell just happened? Some quiet contemplation to find out where all this money's coming from. That's what he's saying. It's not about the money, Lindsay. It's because you didn't listen to the working class guy who voted for you, whose situation hasn't changed or has gotten worse, and you were repeatedly told what the problems were, and you ignored it and just hung out with your friends. That's the feeling I get from this community. And stop talking. We're not like that. Like my friends and I aren't like that. So there's also this angry, open-minded progressiveness that you're getting coming out of South Carolina. They don't care about any of that crap. They care about jobs, respect, and people, and doing what you say you're going to do. The fact that that didn't happen really puts him in a bad situation going forward. It was about his legacy. You know, it goes back to what the woman said in Florida when we went into the remote. We've decided to go with another candidate. He still could win. There's a wish card there coming in. If he wins, he will go back to DC humbled, because the final outcome is the Queen of Wands. And people are very angry. People are very angry at him. And I think that that's shocked him. With a moon card and a 4 of swords. What the hell? Listen to your constituents. This has been brewing for a very long time. It could be the great upset, but if he pulls it off, it's looking like he may still pull it off. Boy, talk about a wake-up call for the Republicans. They think that they're having one conversation, and they're actually most guys just want a decent job, respect, do what you say you're going to do. That's what the feeling was. All right, we're going to look at Mitch McConnell now. I'm very surprised at some of the. You get the same thing in Kentucky. You get these angry guys, white guys, that are not Proud Boys. They're just regular working class people that thinks it's all BS. It's like, they don't. It's just. It's a very interesting. They play. The other thing that's pissing voters in South Carolina is if they do play the race card, and it insults the voters of South Carolina that we won't vote for this guy who obviously is better qualified than you. It's like Lindsey Graham is playing the race card, and it's insulting me as the voter. It's like they're seeing the manipulations. He loses a whole swath of people because of his voting record. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Jamie Harrison ran a very strong campaign and kept pointing out, you lied, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. Instead, you're hanging out with your friends in DC buying pottery, right? Also, he's a secret clothes horse. That's something I found out in the remote. He dresses completely different when he's not on the Senate floor. He's got the cufflinks and the fancy tie and he's very metrosexual the way he dresses when he goes out, and he loves his flashy life, and it's the secret life, and it's starting to piss the people of South Carolina off. He's become the elitist that he was supposed to protect South Carolina against, from their perspective. And that's also how they feel about Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. Dang. Yeah, right, Gloria. And the race thing is really pissing them off because they don't appreciate being manipulated and they don't like the way that they're being represented. Because not everybody's a jerk. It's like they want to take the South back to back to the days of Jim Crow. That's not going to get you very far with a guy who's 30. In South Carolina. Not only that, but you're going to piss them off. It's like you don't even know your constituents. They're not going to participate in that. There's a huge swath of Republicans that feel that way. They're not even Republicans. They're just independents. So it's they're not in touch with the average person in Kentucky. They're not in touch with the average person in South Carolina. What I will say about Mitch McConnell is he always presents as the master. Look at that. Master is his karma card. That guy works, manipulates. He just knows how to play the system. He's going to have to get a deal with Nancy Pelosi because it's really, here comes COVID in the 6th house. It's near future. We're potentially going to have a situation with COVID that's really slams us in about 4 days. And it goes back to the remote where if you follow the energy, what cost this president the election was his failure to lead in the time of a crisis and his behavior during COVID, and we can see, in fact, that he is energetically on a collision course with COVID simply because of the mathematics. So if COVID is growing exponentially in Florida and in other states, and if they're failing to do anything, and if he's encouraging people in the village to go out and party, and you start to show symptoms after 5 days, that would explain why within 4 to 5 days, COVID gets slammed in all of these pro-Trump areas, and all of the Republicans are having to play cleanup, including Mitch McConnell. Even though he's been responsible about the mask, 2 things are coming that are going to have a negative impact on the GOP. The one is the number of people who are going to get sick from COVID. So we all have to go back to being as strict as you used to be, people. Like, if you can get your food delivered, but everybody, it's bad out there. The other thing that's going to cost him the election is the environmental catastrophes that are starting to hit. I know there's 2 systems heading towards the Atlantic, one coming from the north and one coming from the south. One that's a direct hit to Alabama, Tennessee, Florida area. So, and supposedly that's going to be here in the next few days. So remember how we had said that it's almost like Gaia was going to leave with a big bang? That's the big bang. It's the floods and the storms on the East Coast and the Gulf area combined with COVID in the next 4 or 5 days. It doesn't have to affect us if we go about our business, do what we have to do, take care of ourselves, and hunker down like we've been doing. It's interesting. Mitch McConnell is preparing to return to the Senate, but he is preparing to lose the Senate. He is preparing to take a back seat in the Senate. This is not an emotional card chart. This is not an emotional card chart. This is somebody who's been doing this for a very, very long time and is setting the groundwork for a transition to the Democrats. And yeah, that's it. I mean, but it's not an emotional thing. It's kind of like what Lindsey Graham had said in previous remotes, and he's also said it publicly. It's like, that's politics, like. This is somebody also who is working very, very hard to make sure that we can't undo what he's already done. His 4th house is a 7 of Wands, which is to defend his territory, his space. His final outcome is the 10 of Cups. So he celebrates. But the conflict for him is Nancy Pelosi and COVID coming in the 6th house. All right. All right, we'll do the rest of the world. When I went into the remotes in the past about the vaccine, it looked like the vaccine would be available in October, November. And we are doing the phase 3 trials. They're going on right now with the vaccine for healthcare workers. I think something like quite a few thousand now have received the vaccine. The Russian vaccine may actually be safer than the American vaccine. It's kind of interesting also to go into the energy because scientists are not politicians. They're not part of any kind of massive political. The science of the Russian vaccine is very rational and very interesting. What they did is they took an antigen from an adenovirus, which is basically a common, a common infection. And then they put a little bit of the DNA that would recognize a COVID onto it. And that's all they did because they thought it would be the safest thing. Just we get colds, we get upper respiratory rhinoviruses and things like that all the time, So they just took a common one and then just stuck a little cherry on top. I thought that was very clever. And they're like, seems to be working. They knew that people wouldn't have a massive reaction to it because we breathe in adenoviruses all day long. I thought that was very clever. But only 6,000 Russians have received it so far. But no major side effects. Okay, so how is the world going to be handling COVID? And then we'll look at the economy. We're going late. Why not? I can't leave. There's 1,200 of us here. So much fun. I love what we do. It's the best life ever. "30,000 people have been vaccinated." It's pretty good. Oh, hi, Johnny. Johnny, I need to figure it out. Can you email me at whimsyanderson@gmail.com for Halloween party that we're doing? I hope you can come. I was hoping to do a Halloween party with Johnny and Lena Rodriguez as well. You're welcome, Leslie. Yeah, the vaccine's coming in. They've got a Western version or a Russian version. They've got several American versions. My concern when you go into this energy on COVID is that the Americans are refusing to use the other vaccines and demonizing them because they want us to go with an American company. And that's not science, and I'm hoping that that's not what's going on. You can see here the joining Ace of Cups with a business card, so there's a business aspect to it. Coming into a Magician card, but there's a theft card here. People concerned about competition, possibly. Ace of Wands, because it's a business entrepreneurship card in the third house. But we can see what's crossing is the Emperor card, Reason, with the Hanged Man coming in as the first house. There's just so many vaccines. There's a lot of fighting about politics. There's a lot of fighting. You can see here, fighting with the masters is in the 8th house. Conflict about the master at his work, crafting the vaccine, and then a conflict, hopes and fears that it won't go fast enough. Look at this. Tower, inverted hermit card, which can be a thwarted intellect. The final outcome, constriction, right? The pneumonia card, constriction in the chest, Knight of Pentacles. Conflict, political conflict could cost lives. If people are fighting back and forth, and if there's competition, and if people are politically attempting to block vaccines from certain area because of business competition, that's the negative aspect of this reading regarding COVID. It takes on a political, a financial, and an economic incentive, and that in turn could be blocking the vaccine where needed But the problem isn't about the safety trials. The problem is that so many people come up with a safe vaccine at the same time that it becomes a situation of competition. It's kind of like what happened after 9/11, where everybody was competing to rebuild the towers, and it became this, there was a lot of corruption. That's the concern. All right, we're going to go ahead and do one more throw. I'll go ahead and ask if the moderators have a question that didn't get done today. They always get first picks, or... I actually, I've studied some of the stuff that the Russians have done in terms of just energy medicine and stuff. And I've talked to other scientists that are interested in wacky energy medicine. And I was talking to one scientist that was like a genius. He has a PhD in biochemistry and he's an internist. And I said, well, what do you think about what the Russians are doing with A, B, C, D, E? And he said, oh, the Russians? Yeah, they're geniuses. He's like, he's never seen science like that. It's like, they're geniuses over there. Like, wow, just the brilliant minds. Just how much he just admired the science. Science should not be politics. All right, so people are saying that bar, the FBI, etc. Okay, that'll be our last, and then I'm going to call it a day. Make my smoothie, and then go on a mushroom hunt. It just seems so calm. That's what's so weird about it. Like when you look at Mitch Mcconnell's energy, it's just so calm that, okay, it looks like they're going to be in charge now. So here's my job now. I'm transitioning to my new position. Oh, that's Amanita muscaria. I was studying that last night, Egypt. You may want to check out Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia on YouTube. And his studies of Amanita muscaria in the Carpathian Mountains. Did I pronounce? I don't think I pronounced that right. Yeah, it's really good. Oh, Netflix. Oh, I just got a thing from my assistant. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. If I get a text, might be an emergency. Oh, somebody texted my assistant saying, would you please show the spread? No, I can't do that because the angle of the camera doesn't go down that far. Sorry, but I can tell you which house.